Om Sahana Bhavatu Saha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om. Peace, peace, peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. O great Master, have mercy on us. Hari Om Tat Sat. So welcome, everyone, to our Tuesday evening reading and discussion of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. This is a translation by Swami Nikhilananda, who was for many years the head of the Ramakrishna Vivekananda Society of New York, the East Side Center in New York City, and a real powerhouse of spirituality and of presentation of the scriptures left to us by Sri Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. With that, I'll turn it over to our beloved reader, Haima Didi, and she will tell us where we are and what we're up to.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Good evening, everyone. Namaste.
Namaste.
We are on PDF, page 5, the last paragraph, the Master. That's where I will be starting. I don't know about the book because I don't have the book, so I only have PDF format. Here we go now. The Master who divined the mood of desperation in M, his resolve to take leave of this playfield of deception, put new faith and hope into him by his gracious words of assurance. This is within the quotes. God forbid, why should you take leave of this world? Do you not feel blessed by discovering your Guru? By his grace, what is beyond all imagination or dreams can be easily achieved. Close the quotes. At these words, the clouds of despair moved away from the horizon of M's mind, and the sunshine of a new hope revealed to him fresh vistas of meaning in life. Referring to this phase of his life, M used to say, quotes, behold, where is the resolve to end life, and where the discovery of God? That is, sorrow should be looked upon as a friend of man. God is all good, end quotes.
Now, could you read that again, please? Because this is kind of a summation of M's conclusion of what happened to him when he encountered Sri Ramakrishna.
That is right. Definitely, Brother Shankara. The Master who divined the mood of desperation in M, his resolve to take leave of this playfield of deception, put new faith and hope into him by his gracious words of assurance. Quote starts, God forbid, why should you take leave of this world? Do you not feel blessed by discovering your Guru? By his grace, what is beyond all imagination or dreams can be easily achieved. End quote. At these words, the clouds of despair moved away from the horizon of M's mind, and the sunshine of a new hope revealed to him fresh vistas of meaning in life. Referring to this phase of his life, M used to say, starting the quote, "Behold, where is the resolve to end life? And where the discovery of God? That is, sorrow should be looked upon as a friend of man. God is all good." End quotes.
Notice over and over again we hear that though it may not seem so when it's happening, suffering is our friend. Suffering, as Holy Mother said, we read this when we read Swami Chaitananda's book about her. In time you will come to see that all suffering is a blessing. Now, this is very hard for us to assimilate. But if we do assimilate it, and we attain what Sri Ramakrishna called the kitten's mind, which he constantly encouraged on M. Stop your reasoning, he said. Stop your reasoning. Just be like the kitten. What Sri Ramakrishna meant was wherever the mother puts the kitten says nothing more than mew, mew. It is content, so to speak, with wherever the mother puts it. So this is what is meant by, I mean, the kitten may not always be in the most auspicious circumstances, but it doesn't complain, so to speak. So any comments or questions about that particular aspect, that suffering is our friend? M says it repeats it here. Anything at all from anyone?
I totally agree with this statement of what M said, Brother Shankara. At the time of suffering, you just have to keep faith in God. Faith moves the mountains, like experts say. And once you get through that adversity, it's all bliss. You will see it's the bliss continues in your life. We may go through so many sufferings. It's meant to be. It's meant to be that way. But with faith, you can continue to move with bliss. That's my personal experience. I've gone through many different adversities in life, really so crucial ones, with two little children on the top of me, single mother, two little boys. It wasn't easy. But when you look back, it's all meant to happen. You know, now I feel bliss. There is no sadness. It's all liberation. I feel liberated and all bliss, and it's just wonderful feeling.
Wonderful, Haima. This is how we are meant to be, no doubt.
Yes, exactly.
But there is no arguing that it is hard to assimilate at the time.
Yes, exactly.
At the time that it happens, it's very hard for us. And this is what's meant by recollectedness of mind. We have to recollect ourselves and focus on the fact that our suffering is causing us to direct our attention toward the divine.
Exactly.
We're seeking refuge and all of what is said in the opening prayer, that the divine will look over us as a mother and father, that it will sustain and nourish us as a mother and father. we pray for that at the time of suffering. So, anything more from anyone about that before we read on? All right, dears, we just need to keep this firmly in mind, that as Holy Mother said, all suffering is a blessing, even though it's very, very difficult to see it in the moment. And certainly, I
You have
have
experienced
that from my own experience, recent experience. This is not something that ends. It
just
comes
continuous.
with the embodiment.
Can I say something?
Oh, please do, dear.
Just thinking about, suffering is our friend. It's our friend also in the way that sometimes it's all we have is the suffering. And as a good friend will, it leads us to other things.
Well, I think of your song, Black Dog Blues, which has such wisdom in it about that which causing you. Oh, excuse me. I tried to drink and speak at the same time. I don't know why I never learned. Your song, Black Dog Blues, which has the wisdom in it of making a friend of that which is giving you such anguish, the blues. So I know that when you say these things, you're speaking from personal experience. Thank you, Cindy. Would you say again what you said?
Who, me?
Yes, please.
Well, I think if I can remember it, I just said it, didn't I? That sometimes that's when we're suffering, that's all we have is that suffering. We don't have, oftentimes the suffering we have is because something difficult is happening in our lives and we don't have any body supporting us in it. And all we actually have is the suffering itself, and it becomes the friend. Suffering is our friend by leading us to it's like one of the most difficult times in my life was when I was about 11, 12, 13 years old. And it's when I seriously started playing the guitar and absorbing myself into music because I didn't have anything else. Support from family. I was in a school where I pretty much didn't have friends. And it was this suffering was like, okay, the suffering itself led me to the music.
Ah, there we
Was
are.
one friend leading me to another friend. Anyway, that may be reaching, but that's what I was thinking.
No, it doesn't sound like that from here at all. I mean, in retrospect, that is how it looks, isn't it? And I can say the same thing of my own experience. No need to narrate my experience, but please believe me, at about age 15, I had a similar situation. Anything else from anyone before we read on? Thank you, Cindy. Okay, please read on, Nira, dear.
Okay.
Annette, Nira. I don't mean Nira, I mean Haima.
That's okay, Shankara, no problem. After this resettlement, M's life revolved around the master, though he continued his professional work as an educationist. During all holidays, including Sundays, he spent his time at Dakshineshwar in the master's company, and at times extended his stay to several days. It did not take much time for M to become very intimate with the master, or for the master to recognize in this disciple a divinely commissioned partner in the fulfillment of his spiritual mission. When M was reading out the Chaitanya Bhagavata, the master discovered that he had been in a previous birth a disciple and a companion of the great Vaishnava teacher, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the master even saw him with his naked eye, participating in the ecstatic mass singing of the Lord's name under the leadership of that divine personality. So the master told M, "You are my own, of the same substance as the Father and the Son," indicating.
Hold on just one moment. Yeah, I'll want you to read that again, the Father and the Son business.
I feel.
But this business about Chaitanya, if we are to believe what the master said about himself and what was said about him by others who were in a position to know, like Holy Mother and Vivekananda and so on, the master was an incarnation of Vishnu. This is how he appeared to Khudiram, Sri Ramakrishna's father, in a vision saying, "I will be born to you as your son." Vishnu said this to him. Vishnu is that being that, for the purposes described in chapter 4 of the Gita, comes again and again from age to age, takes a body. And so Vishnu was Rama, Vishnu was Krishna, Vishnu was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vishnu then is the master, Sri Ramakrishna. So when the Sri Ramakrishna saw this, he was seeing something of his own experience and narrated quite a little. If you read in the in the Great Master and so on, other things about the master and his description of this, he was quite detailed in what he said to M about his seeing him and experiencing him as part of this. And so with that as context, we can understand better what Haima is about to read.
So the master told M, "You are my own, of the same substance as the Father and the Son," indicating thereby that M was one of the chosen few and a part and parcel of his divine mission.
Don't think that there's any accident in the master using the words Father and Son, which are an echo of Christ, of course, and that incarnation. So please read those words again so we hear that also in that context.
Okay. So the master told M, "You are my own, of the same substance as the Father and the Son," indicating thereby that M was one of the chosen few and a part and parcel of his divine mission.
Ye have not chosen me, I have
I've
chosen.
chosen you. There was
Hold on just a moment.
Go ahead, sure.
Any, as long as we're paused, any other comments or concerns or questions that might be raised about any of this, so that we're on solid ground as we move on, that this is all in the sense of building blocks understood so that we can build on it. Anything at all from anyone?
I think this is also meant to happen this way for M. Here he was wanting to take his life, and then suddenly the transformation came through Master.
Yes.
Ramakrishna,
exactly.
and then immediately he transformed to live again and then be his disciple, and then this is meant to happen, and he wrote his life and for all of us.
But don't think M's troubles ended.
No,
his troubles at home did not end.
Mm-mm.
They were very, very intractable, his problems at home. And of course, as we were talking about earlier, his suffering was a way to keep him focused on Sri Ramakrishna. The more there were troubles at home, the more he took refuge in the Master. This is why we heard earlier that sometimes he would extend his stays with the Master to several days. Sometimes it was out of sheer joy and bliss. Other times he was purely taking refuge with the Master because of the very difficult problems at home with his immediate and extended family. Very difficult. So we can all identify with that. We've all had problems with the near and dear. And so there we are. All right. Anything else from anyone before we read on? All right. Please go ahead, dear.
Okay. There was an urge in M to abandon the household life and become a sannyasin. When he communicated this idea to the Master, he forbade him, saying, within the quotes, "Mother has told me that you have to do a little of her work for you, her work. You will have to teach Bhagavata, the word of God, to humanity. The mother keeps a Bhagavata Pandit with the bondage in the world." End quotes.
And the Bhagavata that he's talking about is the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. That was the work that he was to do. First, to collect all the material, to write that, and then to write it. So this is what the Master meant by Mother saying that you have a little work to do. You can't take refuge in sannyas. You have a little work to do. You must remain as a householder and do this work. And just as a note, if you go to Kolkata, you can still visit M's home. M's home is now in the possession of the Ramakrishna order, so it will never be lost. Or I say never, what do I know about never, but it at least in the foreseeable future, it will remain a place of pilgrimage for anyone who goes there and wishes to visit M's home. You can actually sit right where Sri Ramakrishna sat. You can see where the chair and the desk where M actually took his diaries and wrote them into the gospel, and where the Master stood over his shoulder, according to M's own testimony, stood over his shoulder and copy edited the text with him, saying, no, remember, I didn't say it that way. This is how I said it. So it's quite remarkable that you can visit these places. They're still alive with the presence of M and the Master, and I don't know if they're still doing it, but when I visited in 1999, M's grandson was still in possession of the place and actually took us upstairs and showed us the place where Holy Mother, Sri Sharda Devi, would dry and comb her hair, the place where she sat and so on. It just brings it so alive for you. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara,
Yes.
you said Sri Ramakrishna copy edited, which means that he visited him. How many times did he visit? And is there a record of it? Like how many times that happened and for how long?
I don't remember, Shailesh. It's so long ago I read it, and I suspect that it's in the Great Master or the Sri Ramakrishna's Divine Play. But I can't tell you for certain, but I can tell you for certain that the Master did do this. This was many years after he had left the body. He appeared as if a physical person standing right over M's shoulder and copy editing him. And it was not once, it was more than
Multiple.
once, but just how many times, I do not recall. It's been too long ago. But
Okay.
if
I'll
you,
try to find out. Thank you.
yeah, if you, the person to ask about such things is either Swami Yogatmananda or Swami Mahayogananda. They have great memories for these little details. And they probably have read it more recently than I. Certainly that would be the case with Mahayogananda. So these are resources for you, these swamis. Mahayogananda is in Hollywood, Yogatmananda, of course, in Providence, Rhode Island. And other swamis would probably be a resource too, but I just know of those two having phenomenal memories for these kinds of details. Thanks for the question. Anything else before we go on? Okay.
An appropriate allusion indeed. Bhagavata, the great scripture that has given the word of Sri Krishna to mankind, was composed by the sage Vyasa under similar circumstances. When caught up in a mood of depression like that of M, Vyasa was advised by the sage Narada that he would gain peace of mind only in composing a work exclusively devoted to the depiction of the Lord's glorious attributes and his teachings on knowledge and devotion. And the result was that the world got from Vyasa the invaluable gift of the Bhagavata Purana, depicting the life and teachings of Sri Krishna.
She's speaking of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is available from Vedanta Press and from this bookstore in a wonderful translation by Swami Prabhavananda. Please go ahead, dear.
From the mental depression of the modern Vyasa, the world has obtained the Kathamrita Bengali edition, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna in English. Sri Ramakrishna was a teacher for both the orders of mankind, sannyasins and householders. His own life offered an ideal example for both, and he left behind disciples who followed the highest traditions he had set in respect of both these ways of life. M, along with Nag Mahashay, exemplified how a householder can rise to the highest level of sagehood.
Nagmashai. So please read that again.
Nag Mahashay. That's what it says. Nag Mahashay.
Mashai.
Mashai. Okay.
Yeah, that's the way the Bengalis pronounce it.
M, along with Nag Mahashay, exemplified how a householder can rise to the highest level of sagehood. M was married to Nikunja Devi, a distant relative of Keshav Chandra Sen, even when he was reading at college, and he had 4 children, 2 sons and 2 daughters. The responsibility of the family, no doubt, made him dependent on his professional income, but the great devotee that he was, he never compromised with the ideals and principles for this reason. Once when he was working as the headmaster in a school managed by the great Vidyasagar, the results of the school at the public examination happened to be rather poor, and Vidyasagar attributed it to M's preoccupation with the master and his consequent failure to attend adequately to the schoolwork. M at once resigned his post without any thought of the morrow. Within a fortnight, the family was in poverty, and M was one day pacing up and down the veranda of his house, musing how he would feed his children the next day. Just then a man came with a letter addressed to Mahendra Babu, and on opening it, M found that it was a letter from his friend Sri Surendranath Banerjee asking whether he would like to take up a professorship in the Ripon College. In this way, 3 or 4 times, he gave up the job that gave him the wherewithal to support the family, either for upholding principles or for practicing spiritual sadhanas in holy places without any consideration of the possible dire worldly consequences. But he was always able to get over these difficulties somehow, and the interest of his family never suffered.
Just so you'll know, Surendra Banerjee was also
Yeah.
a disciple of the master.
Yeah.
So this is one of the reasons that this happens. Surendra, if I ever knew, I've forgotten why Surendra was able to offer him this position. But in any event, this position at the Ripon College was actually more paid more than Vidyasakar had been paying him. So it was actually an improvement in his circumstances. And he didn't apply for this. It wasn't that he was, sending out his resume. No, Surendra, who knows why? I don't remember if I ever knew, or if it said why Surendra made this offer. It's doubtless said somewhere in Chaitanananda's writings. Anything else from anyone while we're paused?
There was always angels sent to him, Brother Shankara, every time he was in the down, and then somebody calls and gives him a job. What an angel for him, God sent angel.
Well, he was the master's instrument. He could not be so impoverished that he couldn't do his work for the master. It's as simple as that. Universe responds to.
That's right.
So, thank you. All right, let's read on.
In spite of his disregard for worldly goods, he has, towards the later part of his life, in a fairly flourishing condition as the proprietor of the Morton School, which he developed into a noted educational institution in the city. The Lord has said in the Bhagavad Gita that in the case of those who think of nothing except him, he himself would take up all their material and spiritual responsibilities.
Now let's pause there.
So true, so true.
This is an ironclad promise made by Sri Krishna in the Gita. Turn your attention to me. I see no sinner. Holiness itself shall transform you, and I will see to all your needs. And all of your needs will be met. And furthermore, and this is specifically said, you will not be dispossessed. You will not be left homeless. What an absolute incredible promise. And if you look into the teachings of Holy Mother, and for that matter, Sri Ramakrishna, you will find similar promises, particularly from Holy Mother. If you want to know what I'm talking about, listen to the talk. It's recorded in our archives, Holy Mother's Assurances. It's all spelled out there. Anything else from anyone before we go on? Okay, there's.
I'll read that one more time, that one sentence.
Hold on just one moment.
Sure.
I want, because this has been broken up so much, I'm going to be quiet for a while and let her read. But if anybody else has any reason to want to make a comment or raise a concern or a question, please do not hesitate. I just am feeling a little awkward by breaking in so much and making the narrative that the Swami has written so carefully so fragmented. So I'm just going to be quiet for a while and let Haima read. But if anyone else has any comment, concern, or question, you should raise it. Don't worry about your breaking in. All right. Anything else from anyone before we go on? All right. Please go.
Sure. The Lord has said in the Bhagavad Gita that in the case of those who think of nothing except Him, He Himself would take up all their material and spiritual responsibilities. M was an example of the truth of the Lord's promise. Though his children received proper attention from him, his real family, both during the Master's lifetime and after, consisted of saints, devotees, sannyasins, and spiritual aspirants. His life exemplifies the Master's teaching that an ideal householder must be like a good maidservant of a family, loving and caring properly for the children of the house, but knowing always that her real home and children are elsewhere. During the Master's lifetime, he spent all his Sundays and other holidays with him and his devotees. And besides listening to the holy talks and devotional music, practiced meditation both on the personal and the impersonal aspects of God under the direct guidance of the Master. In the pages of the Gospel, the reader gets a picture of M's spiritual relationship with the Master, how from a hazy belief in the impersonal God of the Brahmos, he was step by step brought to accept both personality and impersonality as the two aspects of the same non-dual being, how he was convinced of the manifestation of that being as gods, goddesses, and as incarnations, and how he was established in a life that was both of a jnani and of a bhakta. This jnani bhakta outlook and way of living became so dominant, a feature of his life, that Swami Raghavananda, who was very closely associated with him during his last 6 years, remarks as follows. Among those who lived with M in latter days, some felt that he always lived in this constant and conscious union with God, even with open eyes. Even in waking consciousness. That is from the Swami Raghavananda's article on M in Prabuddha Bharata. Anybody has comments? That's the paragraph ending. I would give a pause here. Besides undergoing spiritual disciplines at the feet of the Master, M used to go to holy places during the Master's lifetime itself and afterwards too as a part of his sadhana. He was one of the earliest of the disciples to visit Kamarpakur, the birthplace of the Master, in the latter's lifetime itself, for he wished to practice contemplation on the Master's early life in its true original setting. His experience there is described as follows by Swami Nityatmananda. Start quotes. By the grace of the Master, he saw the entire Kamarpakur as a holy place, bathed in an effulgent light. trees and creepers, beasts and birds, and men all were made of effulgence.
Effulgence.
Effulgence, yeah, you're right. Thank you.
It means
Effulgence.
effulgence. It means
Mhm.
a shining light.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Trees and creepers, beasts and birds, and men all were made of effulgence. So he prostrated to all on the road. He saw a torn cat, which appeared to him luminous with the light of consciousness. Immediately he fell to the ground and saluted it. End quotes. M. The Apostle and the Evangelist by Swami Nityananda.
Okay, hold on just one moment. I have
Mhm.
to interrupt now.
Give some.
If you want to know a great deal more about the Master's early life in Kamarpukur, which is absolutely entrancing. It is just, it is such an amazing childhood. You can read about it in a book called The Punti, Punthi, which is by Akshay Kumar Sen, another direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. And in translation, it is called A Portrait. That's what Punti means, a portrait of Sri Ramakrishna. You can secure this book through Vedanta.com, or you can probably find used copies on Amazon or elsewhere. If you wish to know more about the Master's childhood, the early sections of that book are devoted to it in great and loving detail, all very accurate. Swami Vivekananda said about that book, the Punti, he said, I find that there is not one irrelevant word in this book. Now, that is very high praise from Swami Vivekananda, who was extremely critical of people's exaggerations and hyperbole about the Master, even though he was guilty of it himself. But nevertheless, he was, when he said that about this book, he said 1,000 embraces for Akshay for producing this book. Akshay Kumar Sen, again, a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, and one of the ones who was blessed by him on January 1st, 1886, when the Master came down from the Kashipur garden house and blessed those 30 some odd disciples, direct disciples that were in the garden, all householder disciples, all householders. The monastics stayed back and didn't come down for this remarkable event, which is called the Kalpataru Day, Kalpataru being the wish-fulfilling tree. Sri Ramakrishna fulfilled each of these direct disciples' wish on January 1st, 1886. And again, this is described in detail in the book The Great Master, or as retranslated by Swami Chaitananda, Sri Ramakrishna, His Divine Play. Swami Sardananda wrote the Great Master in Bengali, and I think it was Nikhilananda again who translated it into English. In any event, you'll find the Kalpataru. You can look it up online in any event, and just put in your search window Kalpa, 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 Kalpa Taru, Taru, Kalpataru Day, January 1st, 1886. And you'll find a long Wikipedia article about it and so on. Anything else from anyone about this remarkable dispensation of the master? Okay.
He had similar experience in Dakshineshwar also. At the instance of the master, he also visited Puri, and in the words of Swami Nichatmananda, with indomitable courage, M embraced the image of Jagannath out of season. The life of sadhana and holy association that he started on at the feet of the master, he continued all through his life.
Okay, I'm just concerned. I just have an intuition that not everyone knows who Jagannath is. Jagannath, there's an image of Jagannath, huge wooden image. It's recreated every few years, I think every 7 years, I'm not sure. But in any event, in Puri, and if anyone knows more about that image, please contribute that. But in any event, Puri is a great place of pilgrimage. And so Jagannath means the Lord of the universe. Jagat means universe or creation, all of creation. Jagannath means Lord of. So this image is, and embracing that image, or you can't physically embrace it, it's too big, but embracing it in your heart is said to be an extremely auspicious thing to do. And so maybe Jaime will read this again about him going to Puri.
Sure.
Anything else about Jagannath from anyone who knows anything about it? Shailesh, anything from you about Jagannath?
He's a form of Vishnu. That much I know.
Yeah, well, yes, of course, yes.
Form of Vishnu.
All,
Jagannath,
all
the
incarnations
Supreme Lord.
are a form of Vishnu, yes.
I think someone else may know more about Jagannath, but what I know is that it's a form of Sri Krishna, isn't it?
Well,
Sri Krishna.
Jagannath is a form of Vishnu.
Lord of the world.
But it
Don't they
is,
have that
it
chariot
is,
pulling ceremony at Jagannath Puri?
say it again.
The chariot pulling.
Yeah, well, this is one of the things. And Sri Ramakrishna actually participated in that.
So what I understand, what I know is that, and that those are the three. It's Sri Krishna, Balram, and Rukmini. Those three are worshipped there.
Yes.
Actually, Sri Krishna worship, not Vishnu. So they are all Sri Krishna devotees, and there is a great story about how the image was formed, and I think there was something which something happened. So it basically that image is not completed, but incomplete form only, and
Yeah,
but
yes,
still it's very holy or something of that sort.
yes. And there is some very interesting information in the book that we read previously on Holy Mother when she visited there and what she said about it. So you can look that up as well. But please read what it says about M's visit to Puri.
One side note I would like to add, Brother Shankara, I
Yes.
was reading a book, an unofficial copy of Sadhak Sadhana and Siddhi, what is the Eternal Companion. So there is a typed copy of Eternal Companion, and it mentions Swami Prabhavananda had the first significant spiritual experience he had was in the Puri. So he was visiting the temple. He started walking, and then suddenly he felt there was a storm with inside him or something. And I can find the book if I have that, or maybe it's in the center, and I can read that. But the place is so holy that was the first thing, and that's the first time he went into Samadhi. Swami
Yes.
Prabhavananda.
Yes.
I think you probably know that a little better than I.
Well, Swami Prabhavananda had a very profound experience there. And this is where you use the word storm. he says that occasionally illumination comes like a thunderbolt, a thunderclap. And this is part of the description of what he experienced, yes.
Yeah.
So anything else before Haima reads again about, now that we have this background on Jagannath and why this was such an auspicious thing for him to do. And so please, Haima.
Sure. The life of sadhana and holy association that he started on at the feet of the master, he continued all through his life. He has, for this reason, been most appropriately described as a grihastha sannyasi, which means.
No, I want you to read before that about his visit to Puri.
Okay. Oh, sure, I will. I'll go back to that. He had similar, you want me to read the whole paragraph or just a couple of lines before?
No, the whole paragraph, please.
Okay.
About Kamarpukur and Puri.
Yes, I'm going to start. Besides undergoing spiritual disciplines at the feet of the master, M used to go to holy places during the master's lifetime itself and afterwards too, as a part of his sadhana. He was one of the earliest of the disciples to visit Kamarpukur, the birthplace of the master, in the latter's lifetime itself, for he wished to practice contemplation on the master's early life in its true original setting. His experience there is described as follows by Swami Nityatmananda. Starting quotes, by the grace of the master, he saw the entire Kamarpukur as a holy place bathed in an effulgent light. Trees and creepers, beasts and birds, and men, all were made of effulgence. So he prostrated to all on the road. He saw a torn cat, which appeared to him luminous with the light of consciousness. Immediately he fell to the ground and saluted it, end quote. This is adapted from M. the Apostle and the Evangelist by Swami Nityatmananda. Volume 1, page 40. He had similar experience in Dakshineshwar also. At the instance of the master, he also visited Puri, and in the words of Swami Nityatmananda, with indomitable courage, M embraced the image of Jagannath out of season. The life of sadhana and holy association that he started on at the feet of the master, he continued all through his life. He has, for this reason, been most appropriately described as a grihastha sannyasi, meaning householder sannyasin. Though he was forbidden by the master to become a sannyasin, his reverence for the sannyasa ideal was wholehearted and was without any reservation. So after Sri Ramakrishna's passing away, while several of the master's householder devotees considered the young sannyasin disciples of the master as inexperienced and inconsequential, Yam stood by them with the firm faith that the master's life and message were going to be perpetuated only through them. Swami Vivekananda wrote from America in a letter to the inmates of the Mat. Start quotes. When Sri Thakur, that is master, left the body, everyone gave us up as a few unripe urchins. But M and a few others did not leave us in the lurch. We cannot repay our debt to them. This is from Swami Raghavananda's article on M in Prabuddha Bharata.
Yeah, this business about some of Sri Ramakrishna's direct disciples, the householder disciples, uh, we have to understand that this was just a collection of a seemingly random collection, nothing coherent about them at all, of very young men, some of them still, in their very early 20s. And so it's not hard to understand how they didn't see what the master saw and the Holy Mother saw and Vivekananda saw about their future. And so it was just their first monastery was a dilapidated old house with snakes on the first floor and spiders everywhere. And, if it hadn't been for the work of people like Ramakrishna and Abhedananda, who worked and worked and worked to clean the place up on the floor where they lived, it would have continued to be a mess. But they made a real joyous and very clean and well lighted place, so to speak of it. And so more and more of these direct disciples, these householder disciples of the master, became aware that these guys were doing some serious spiritual work and sadhana there. Though Vivekananda told all of his fellow monks, don't say anything to them, don't try to persuade them to anything. Just, let them think whatever they think. And sometimes they would go hungry for some time before somebody would show up and bring them some food, because they didn't go out begging. And so it was quite a remarkable little story, which is told in part at the end of the gospel in some chapters by M about what happened at Varanagore, that first monastery, and his experiences there, particularly with Vivekananda and others. It was quite an auspicious start. And of course, then it evolved and evolved and eventually became what we now know as the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Modern Mission at Belramat. That didn't happen until about 10 years after the master's death. Anything at all from anyone? It's 8:28. So, Ima, is there, where are we in what we're reading? Are there just a few lines left in a paragraph, or are we starting a new paragraph, or what?
We are just going to start a small paragraph. There are a couple of small paragraphs, Brother Shankara.
Okay, go ahead and read them, please.
I can read one small one. That way there'll be time up, I think, in 2 minutes. Okay. M spent his weekends and holidays with the monastic brethren who, after the master's demise, had formed themselves into an order with a mutt at Varanagore and participated in the intense life of devotion and meditation that they followed. At other times, he would retire to Dakshineshwar or some garden in the city and spend several days in spiritual practice, taking simple self-cooked food. In order to feel that he was one with all mankind, he often used to go out of his home to dead of night and, like a wandering sannyasin, sleep with the waifs on some open veranda or footpath on the road. I will stop there, Brother Shankara. That would be a good stopping point for us.
Okay.
If anybody has any comments or...
Yeah, anything, we'll read that paragraph again, because M really did spend an awful lot of time with these young fellows. There were only 12 or 13 of them at that point. There weren't very many. They grew to a group of about 21. But in the very beginning, there were just, I think at times there were as many as 16. Anyhow, we'll come to all that. Again, my head for numbers is not good. So, but this little episode is this, well, it's a long time before we get to the Baranagore episode, but we're getting a little introduction to it now. Anything at all from anyone? All right.
Just a thought to share, Brother Shankara. Whenever I read about him or hear about him, I realize that how sincere he was. He was so many difficulties, expectations from his wife, and later on, I think he lost his son. But just with all these issues going on in his life, he was so sincere.
Yes.
It's amazing. That is what I like to would like to learn, that however hardship may be there, if you are sincere, then
He was sincere, and the wonderful word steadfast. Steadfast. Nothing could shake his faith in the Master. And so it was joyous to hear of M. And as I say, if anyone ever visits Kolkata, do not miss. There are two places that you must not miss. M's house and Balaram Bose's house. Both are in the possession of the order now. So I have no idea what the rules are about their visiting them. But if you stay at the guest house, either at Gold Park, the Institute of Culture, or at Belrumat itself, the manager, Swami, can make arrangements for you to visit these places, and will make arrangements so that you're taken there by a reliable driver who won't cheat you and so on. It's the place that, the place is still alive with the Master's presence. Of course, it is everywhere that there is one of his centers, but it's more intense there. It's more intense. At least that's the experience of people who go. Any last words from anyone? Thank you, Shailesh.
thank you.
Om Hari Om. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Abir Moiti. Oh, dearly beloved, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from this realm of endless noise and relentless deception to thine abode of silence, serenity, clarity, and peace. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting, shining presence. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Peace, peace, peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. O beloved Master, make it so. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga Durga Durga. May we be safe, may we be healthy, may we be cheerful, may we have peace of mind, and may we be always, and know we are always, in the loving and protective embrace of the divine being as our mother and father. So with that, good night. And Jeff, I will write you an email, but probably not until Thursday.
That will be fine. I will look forward to that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Good night, everyone. Until tomorrow night, when of course we'll take up the Gita, or Saturday when we take up How to Know God by Swami Prabhavananda, or Sunday when we'll talk about The Keys Are Yours for the Taking, which will start with a guided meditation about just exactly that. The keys are yours for the taking.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. Good night.
Good night, and thank you, Haima, for so capably reading for us. It really is a joy.
I'm honored.
You're very patient with me.
Thank you. No problem. That's
All
okay.
right. Good night, everyone.
Bye.